Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Crave Show with Chris and JRuss. And this week we've got a friend of mine, Swati Varshney, is joining us. Hey, Swati, how are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm good. So before we get going too far, because Chris is going to mess this up the way that I still feel like I mess it up all the time, can you just give a concise pronunciation of your first name? Because there's a little bit of H in there, even though it's not in the printed name.
Yeah, my name is pronounced Swati.
Oh, Swati.
Yeah,
Oh,
Chris, you
okay.
nailed it. First try.
I was saying it wrong.
Yeah. Wow, you
As
picked
I
that up.
have.
Yeah, I've known JRuss for like 15 years and he still can't say it.
Yep.
He's probably doing it on purpose.
I wish I could say that, but no.
Well, hey, before we get going too far, I want to give a quick kind of announcement update, also a request for help of sorts. So I've kind of mentioned a little bit that I've been working on kind of a new functionality for Crave and the website. And what I'm trying to put together is an additional functionality to the Crave platform where we can host like live online coaching sessions. And we're going to have a directory of coaches. It'll be by invitation only. Some of the instructors might even join in to where we can set up what are going to be called Crave Flight Labs, and they'll be covering specific disciplines and skill sets for skydiving, of course. And you'll be able to join one of those flight labs, and then you'll meet weekly with your coach, the coach that's putting on the flight lab. And the idea is, the plan is, you'll have the ability to upload videos in advance so that the instructor will have, or the coach will have time to go over those videos. And then when you meet online as a group, the coach can kind of debrief those videos. Everybody can learn from one another, learn from each other's videos. And of course, also that coach will have some instruction and coaching and maybe even some skill drills or different things that they can give to the whole group, kind of based on where everybody's at and what's going on. So I've been working on building that functionality out within the Crave website and platform. It's been a ton of work. I didn't realize what I was getting into. But I'm getting close to the point where we're going to need to do some beta tests. So I'm going to need a group of people who would like to be beta testers. Now, there's probably going to be a cost involved just for the time of the coaches and what we're doing, but it'll be significantly discounted compared to once we actually launch the program and get it going. So if you are interested in being one of the beta testers with these flight labs, please email me. It's chris@cravetofly.com. So that's KRAVTOFLY, chris@cravetofly.com. And just in the subject, just put flight labs, I'm in, something like that. Just something about flight labs beta test that you want to join, you want to try it out. And then I will make a list. I probably won't get back to you immediately, so don't worry about it if you don't hear back from me. I'll make a list of everybody's names that I get. And then when we're ready to launch the beta test, I'll contact everybody and we'll see if we can make it work out. So that's my announcement and housekeeping. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, as promised, Swati. Who are you? Tell people who you are.
Cool. Hi, my name is Swati. Happy to be here. I live in San Diego, California right now. I've been skydiving for 15 years. Can you believe it? I started in 2010, and I've had a long and meandering path through the sport, journeying through the years as a weekend warrior that balances skydiving with my regular life. I have about 1,500 jumps now, maybe like 300 hours of tunnel time sprinkled at drop zones across the United States and a little bit internationally too. I primarily came up in the sport as a free flyer, which is how I know JRuss. And more recently, I've had a lot of fun being a beginner again and going back to learn dynamic flying and angle flying, that sort of thing. And of course, the reason why I believe I'm here, I'm one of 3 candidates that's selected for the Hera Rising mission, which is to do the next big stratospheric skydive. It's a really neat project that blends the things I'm really passionate about: skydiving, science and engineering, education, and outreach.
Awesome.
I don't know if I know anything. I mean, I know it. No, I don't think I know hardly anything about the project. So can go over that a little. Give us kind of the summary, the overview, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there may be a lot of people listening that don't know anything about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Hera Rising project, it is set to do the next big stratospheric skydive. The intent is to break the record for the highest altitude free fall, and that would be performing a skydive from the edge of space. And that would break the record that has been previously set by some of the famous stratospheric skydives by Joe Kittinger, Felix Baumgartner with Red Bull Stratus, and Alan Eustace. And the intent of this project for Hera Rising is to have this record be performed by a woman. And so, it's not just that, it's about doing the skydive with a purpose. The purpose is being women's empowerment, STEM education, and some outreach. So they really want to have a message that goes along with this skydive, talking about ourselves and our stories, the cause, inspiring women and girls across the world about what's possible, in particular as it pertains to science and engineering.
That's awesome. So right now, what is the record right now, and then what's the goal for the project?
Yeah. So let's see. So the three skydives that I mentioned, there was the Excelsior 3 mission that was performed by Joseph Kittinger in 1960. The altitude for that skydive was 102,000 feet.
That's crazy. In 1960?
1960. That record stood until the Red Bull Stratus jump by Felix Baumgartner, rest in peace, 2012. That was done at an altitude of 127, don't quote me on this, 127,851 feet, I believe. That record stood for about 2 years until the Strat X mission in 2014, done by Alan Eustace, where he jumped from an altitude of 135,890 feet. And then this Hera Rising mission, which, maybe me, maybe one of the other two candidates, the intent is for skydiving from an altitude of 139,500 feet.
Wow. And so what is the craft, or what will you use to get to that altitude? What are some of the specifics as far as what do you have to wear? What are just kind of give us some of that stuff. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it is super fascinating. So, what I think is to me, one of the coolest pieces of this project is the spacesuit. We have to wear a spacesuit. It's not just a regular skydiving jumpsuit. So there's a lot of work that's going into the spacesuit development. So it's more than just a regular spacesuit. It needs to be able to withstand the extreme environments of space, but also survive re-entry into the atmosphere, and perform and protect you within all of those ranges of environments. The spacesuit has, a lot of things on it. It needs to house all of your skydiving equipment, your canopy, all your little knobs and dials and what have you. But also has a full life support system. So there's oxygen. There's a system to provide oxygen to you, but also clear out the carbon dioxide. There's a pressure regulator to maintain the pressure within the spacesuit. There's a thermal regulation system to maintain an adequate body temperature for you within the spacesuit. And you have to, what's cool to me is I have to learn to fly this thing. It'll be super neat to learn how to fly this.
So with the, I think I remember reading on Baumgartner's that they were a little concerned at the extreme high altitudes, right? The air is so thin. They were concerned that if he started spinning, there's no way to control himself, right? Because there's no air resistance. So they were a little worried that if he got into a spin and spun fast enough, he wouldn't be able to bring his arm in to to deploy a canopy. and that they actually installed a button on his glove or his palm somewhere. So if that happened, it was like an emergency release button that he could push to deploy canopy. Do you know if that's true? And will you guys have something similar to that?
So that was definitely a concern on the Felix Baumgartner jump. And if you watch the feed, there was this moment as he was starting to accelerate towards the Earth where he entered into a spin. And I remember watching that like shocked, like, oh my God, is this really what's happening? Is he going to enter a flat spin? And thankfully, once he got at a low enough altitude and the density of the atmosphere started to build, he was able to regain control. So that's absolutely a concern that still stands. And there's two kind of key engineering features that are going into this jump to prevent that from happening. And both of these were implemented on the Alan Eustace jump. So one is the platform design. So if you remember, Felix Baumgartner rode a little capsule up into space, and then he stepped off the edge and landed in a free fall position.
Yeah.
And so that force of actually just simply taking a step off imparts a lot of different forces on your body. And as skydivers, we're trained to work against air resistance and use that to control our flight. As we're skydiving, but if there's no atmosphere, there's nothing really to push against. There's no drag to control So with the Alan Eustace jump, he was simply suspended in a harness, basically in a free fall belly to earth position, and it was just dangling under that balloon all the way up. And the release mechanism was very straightforward. You just pushed a button, released, and was already in a free fall position without any of those forces of taking a step off of a platform. So that's one piece. Set yourself up for success by already being in the right body position. The other part of it is using a drogue. So the Alan Eustace jump, he used a drogue on that. And there was a lot of really clever engineering that went into the design of the drogue system that he used. So trying to remember the exact mechanics of it, but do you remember having those like slap bracelets as a kid where it's like this really rigid structure, but you can slap it against your wrist and it coils up? So it's the drogue system's kind of like that in reverse. During the ascent, it's all coiled up neatly, tightly. And as Alan was dropped from the platform, the structure extended and stiffened. So it helped keep the drogue suspended away from his body. So up that high, the atmosphere is so thin, it's hard to keep a drogue inflated. So it's really necessary to keep that drogue away from your body so it doesn't just coil up and wrap up around you. And then during the descent, as the density of the atmosphere picks up, the drogue is able to inflate with air molecules and function with its intended purpose.
So that means Eustace didn't go nearly as fast as... Didn't Baumgartner break the sound barrier?
Baumgartner did break the sound barrier. I would have to double check on the exact speed that Alan was able to accumulate, but it wasn't that much slower. I mean, if you think about like a tandem skydive isn't really going that much slower than a belly flyer.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit, but not much.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So JRuss, I'm going to keep asking questions until you just butt in.
Ask the ones that you don't ask that I
Okay. Well, so can we back up now and can you tell us a little bit about how did you end up being one of the candidates? How did that even come to be?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So this project was kind of being formulated by a group of folks. Trying to remember exactly, all of the little details that are in here. But so this was, I want to say 2020, 2021 timeframe that this group of folks is putting together the vision for this jump. The founders of this project is a man named Tito Meliga. He's the founder and chief creative officer of the project. He's an Argentinian entrepreneur and champion of women's empowerment causes. Ronald Chang Diaz is the president of this project. He's a Costa Rican engineer and works in the aerospace industry. And he had a family member that was actually an astronaut in a US space program back in the day. And Rick Watson as Chief Operating Officer. He works for a company called Nubly as a tech and media executive. So they had this vision to do this stratosphere jump and, you know, have it be all about women's empowerment, STEM outreach, and that sort of thing. But they, you know, they had the idea and the vision, but they needed a candidate to actually do the jump. So they went on this search for finding that candidate. Now they had some criteria, right? They wanted it to be a woman, they needed it to be a skydiver, and some, you know, some nice to haves like a background in STEM career fields, some experience doing outreach and women's empowerment type stuff, that sort of thing. So that team reached out to prominent skydivers so prominent skydivers to try to find names of folks that, you know, might be able to do this jump. My name came up as one of those. They passed my name along, and I did an interview. So, you know, I'm certainly a woman skydiver with an engineering background. I interviewed with the team, and it was a hit. You know, I did a series of interviews with the team, plus interviews with a sports doctor, sports psychologist for fitness for the mission. And they had it narrowed down to 3 candidates, myself being one of them. And a little bit about the other 2. There's Ileana Rodriguez. She's in Arizona. She lives in Arizona. She's a competitive formation skydiver, flew on Arizona airspeed back in the day. You know, very decorated skydiver in terms of medals and championships in the International Skydiving Hall of Fame, and continues to work in the sport as a skydiving instructor and freefall trainer. The other candidate is Diana Valerin. She's a Costa Rican skydiver. She is a systems and software engineer and a very prolific extreme sports athlete. She's into skydiving, extreme hiking. She's a world-class scuba diver and scuba dive master. She's someone I would characterize as just like fearless and adventurous. And then there's me. I was the kind of the engineer of the group. We have a background in materials engineering, you know, decent skydiver with a track record of being in the sport for a number of years. And, you know, they had the 3 of us. The goal for the project originally was that they were going to select one of us as the candidate for the mission and then have one backup. They had it narrowed down to us 3 and brought us in to do a spacesuit fitting with the intention of making their final selection kind of as the outcome of that meeting. And that trip is actually where Diana, Ileana, and I met each other in person for the first time. So that was super neat. And I think the team was really blown away by the chemistry that the 3 of us had as a group. So the supportiveness that we showed for each other, the eagerness we had about the project, the mission, just in general helping each other in and out of our suits, taking selfies, getting to know each other, and the stoke for the project as a whole. And, you know, from there, the project leaders decided that instead of just one of us, it was going to be a team of all 3 of us who are going to train together for this mission and make it a journey together, and then later choose one of us to do the actual jump at the end.
That's cool. That's really, really cool. So have y'all started training?
Not yet. So we did the spacesuit fitting. So that was a really cool experience. We got to like put on the spacesuits, pressurize them up, learn how to breathe and walk inside the spacesuits. We even did some mobility checks, like we're suspended in the spacesuits and like, can you actually move your arms or not? Like, what do we need to change about the suit? So that was super neat.
And what was it difficult to move?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, given how hard it was for me to just find regular skydiving gear Think about, translating all of those challenges from just finding a jumpsuit and a container as a petite woman in this sport, and then translate that onto a spacesuit,
So
right?
are all three of you similar build?
Yep,
I mean,
we're
did you all
all
use the same suit?
Yep, we all wore the same suit. I believe
Okay.
it was like a men's size medium, is just the prototype generic suit that they had. It was massive on all three of us. So, the outcome of that meeting was that they need to redesign this suit for any one of us.
Yeah. Or did you get to like try to walk around in it or anything like
Yeah.
that? Was
Yeah.
it
So
heavy?
it was heavy, but it is pressurized up. So once the suit inflates and is pressurized up, you don't really feel the heaviness of the suit.
Huh.
It's actually kind of buoyant and holding you up. What was super neat
Interesting.
is, with the suit pressurized up, they rigged us into a hanging harness and suspended us in a belly to earth position to try to see what it would feel like to skydive in this suit. And from there, I got to do things like see if I could move my arms. Could I reach to pull a parachute? Like, would I be able to reach up and grab my toggles? That sort of thing. It
And
was it
so,
was
and
neat.
were you able to or not? Not really.
Some things yes, and some things no. There's
Yeah.
a very limited range of motion in these
That's
suits,
wild.
so they were able to take some notes on where they needed to cut back in the design or where they needed to enable some greater mobility to cater to our bodies.
And is the plan that you will at some point have a chance to fly it in the tunnel?
Yes, yes,
That's crazy.
absolutely.
That'd
Yeah,
be wild.
yeah. That is, I think, the thing I'm most excited about, to
Yeah, I
put on
would
the
love to see
spacesuit
video
and
of
go
that.
rip around in the tunnel.
If you do that, and if they probably won't let you share video, but I would love to see that if they do.
Yeah,
That'd
I
be
think
cool.
I believe there are some videos that are accessible if you search hard enough for them, about the R&D process when they were designing Alan Eustace's suit. So we're
Hmm.
using the same R&D team as Alan Eustace did. So they put a lot of research into the design of this suit and did a lot of testing, flying it in wind tunnels, skydiving with it, and learning the ins and outs of the suit. So you may be able to find some videos of that.
Okay. And you have a background in engineering. Did you say materials science or material? What did you say?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So is there anything that you've noticed that is just interesting to you that you think, wow, this is cool, or that stands out about the suit or about the program? Anything that you guys have done so far? Anything? I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. How do I say this? Just about everything. Yeah, I categorize myself. I have a degree in materials engineering, but I really categorize myself as an interdisciplinary engineer. I love all sorts of problems and finding like the little intricacies that are apparent in just about everything that's in front of me. Learning what those intricacies are, learning more about the system, and figuring out ways to make it better. So, a big part of just general problem solving and risk assessment comes down to, like, so we've already talked about the spacesuit design and engineering, and then there's also the balloon design and engineering. So it'll be a giant balloon that's actually carrying us up into space. So it was neat to read about all the research that's gone into balloon designs, rigging attachments between the balloon and the person, figuring out how to get harnessed up and attached properly, but then also the release mechanism. Super fascinating stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. So you won't be in a capsule. You'll be in just suspended. Like what Eustace did.
Yeah, there's still talks. The final platform design hasn't been like fully confirmed yet. We want it to be more like the Alan Eustace design to promote being in uh, a neutral free fall body position to start, and maybe something that's rather than just being suspended under a balloon, maybe something like a platform. The intent for this jump, there's a research and engineering component to it. They want the platform to be able to house little pods that would be capable of supporting different types of research experiments. So, it'll have like these little pods that do research experiments, but then in some fashion integrate us in a skydiving body position.
That's cool. That's really cool. Love it. JRuss,
Ready whenever
I
you
saw
are.
you. I saw you writing.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm curious. I bought a microphone. Like, can you guys hear me? Okay, is the volume
Yeah,
okay?
it's great.
Yes.
I bought this to I bought just so I don't have to carry the setup back and forth. Is that better
It
or
sounds
is it the
great.
same?
Oh, you mean when you moved it?
Like it's been up over behind the computer the whole time, but
I honestly move it back. I don't think I can tell the difference.
whoop, it just disconnected. So uh, hopefully it's good where it is.
It sounds great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna set it down now because I actually broke it off the post.
You broke your brand
Oopsies.
new microphone.
Okay, so Swati, I have a couple questions.
He still said your name wrong.
Swati, sorry. Yeah, fuck. Okay, where does space technically begin?
Oh boy, that's a good question. So there are many layers of the atmosphere, right? And so there's the troposphere, which is where we sit, which goes up several miles, and then there's the stratosphere. And the stratosphere is the layer of the atmosphere where we will be doing the jump. And then, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Google right now, where does space technically begin?
Perfect.
And then I
Just
can
ask
give you
chat.
I could have done that, but I
Ask
thought
chat. Chat knows everything.
I thought you would know.
Okay. Oh, great. Google's AI overview agrees with what I was about to tell you, is that there isn't a universally agreed upon boundary. It's kind of this gradient. But the widely accepted Kármán line, located 100 kilometers or 62 miles above Earth's surface, serves as the conventional start of outer space for international record keeping. However, the United States uses a lower altitude of 80 kilometers or 50 miles to define an astronaut, and the Earth's atmosphere gradually thins out, making the transition to space a gradual process rather than a sharp line.
Okay, so 50 miles. Okay, so if you're going to, you said 139
139,000 feet.
1,000 feet. So 50 miles is 264,000.
Yep.
So still a ways from being in actual space.
Yep. So we're skydiving from the edge of space, but not from space.
The edge. Yeah. So, okay. Do you have you guys been briefed? Like, what are the temperatures that you're going to experience as you re-encounter more atmosphere?
Yeah. So that's a good question, and that's a big part of the engineering design of the spacesuits. So as you go from the Earth's surface up into the atmosphere, the temperature decreases. So let's say about 15 degrees Celsius on average on the surface of the Earth, to like minus 56 degrees Celsius at the edge of the troposphere. And then you enter the stratosphere. And what's interesting is that in the stratosphere, so it gets really cold, but then there's this layer of the atmosphere where it kind of gets warmer again. It's where the ozone layer sits, and it traps a lot of thermal energy coming from the sun. So the temperature actually starts to rise from that minus 56 degrees Celsius up to about like minus 2 degrees Celsius. So the spacesuit needs to be able to withstand temperatures that are comfortable temperatures on the surface of the Earth, these extreme cold temperatures, and then withstand the temperature starting to rise back up again, and then do that all again in reverse while you're in free fall.
So, like, is there anticipation? I guess what I was thinking about, obviously the cold, but then as you start to experience friction, when I was a kid, the space shuttles were a big thing, and the way, like, it was very specific, the angle that they had to re-enter the atmosphere, as well as the incredible heat shielding that they had to put on the underside of that thing as it experienced the friction of the atmosphere at a very high speed. Obviously, you're going to be going slower than a space shuttle, but is that a consideration for you as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And then I wondered, when you're testing the suit, a couple things about the suit. Number one, Steph and I did a project with the Inspiration astronauts who are going to go to Mars, and they wanted to do AFF, and it has been sort of an ongoing project with those guys. But in the first time that we worked with them, they talked about the development of a suit. And it made me wonder if SpaceX was assisting with you guys or if there was any sharing going on, because basically they said that all the astronauts that went into space had to have shoulder reconstruction on both shoulders when they returned because the suits were so whatever cumbersome or restrictive that it messed up their shoulders. And that also each suit was, I think, in 1970s dollars, nearly $1 billion. And so they wanted to obviously get that cost down. They wanted to make them more functional. If they're going to go to Mars, they can't be wearing something that requires shoulder surgery afterwards. Um, and so, any do you know of collaboration that's happening between the two programs?
So I can speak a little bit about spacesuit design and development over the years, and everything you said, JRuss, is spot on in terms of challenges that folks have experienced in terms of like the fit of the suit, as well as the cost of the suit, and concerns about whether this is really a viable path forward as we look into future missions in this suit. So the company that's working on our spacesuits is Paragon Space Development Corporation. They're the same team that worked on Alan Eustace's suit, and they also have been building some next-gen spacesuits for NASA's Artemis mission. So there's a lot of
Mm.
ongoing research for government programs, especially with NASA, on redesigning next-gen spacesuits to make them more functional, more flexible, kind of more like actually conforming to a body's ranges of motion and less burdensome. And we hope to be able to piggyback on a lot of that R&D that's ongoing.
Cool. When you guys, when you tried the suit, which I think it's hilarious that just the way our world works, that you're in a project for three women to go into the stratosphere and you put on a men's suit to start with. I think that's hilarious and ironic. But
Yeah.
did you do it in a swimming pool?
No, we were just on the ground in a room.
Okay.
Yep, in
We
the
I
atmosphere.
used to work with a guy who worked with NASA astronauts, and it was almost always submerged where they were testing the suits because if not the same, but the most similar environment I think they could experience while still on Earth was being buoyant in a pool, but also the water will get in if it's not sealed correctly, and that was helpful for them to know as well. Which
Yep.
brought up a point that when I was kind of a newish skydiver, um, I listened to a lecture by Joe Kittinger, and his glove became disconnected basically on the ride up, and he knew what was coming. He was an Air Force guy, I think. He was in the military, I believe it was the Air Force, and his hand, because of the lack of pressure, his hand swelled up pretty significantly. To the point that he had similar concerns to what you're saying, like, can I function the way that I'm supposed to? but but neglected to tell anybody because he wanted the mission to go forward, which seems a little bit insane. But
Yeah.
when you brought up his name, just reminded me that he had that story. Um, and then I also wanted to just ask you. I know that you know Steve and Sarah Curtis. Do you know that Steve rigged up a 6 or 8 person release mechanism to go underneath a balloon that simultaneously released all of them? It was a mounting bracket basically that he put on the bottom of the balloon. And so, just what you were talking about there, um, because part of one of the questions I wrote down was, um, for with respect to the suit, is the balloon going to carry? It has to carry a lot of the life support, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it can't all be in your suit, or the suit would be tremendously big. Um, Anyway, I just thought, you know, Steve and Sarah, and if it was ever interesting to you, Andy Malchiotti was one of the participants of. They took the balloon up and they were all in a seated position, but released at the same moment, and it looked, well, really fun, but also maybe salient to what you're looking at. Um,
Yeah.
and Steve's a heck of, like, Steve's a little bit autistic, but he's a heck of a builder himself, and maybe maybe that idea would find some application for what you're doing.
Yeah, that is super neat, JRS. I know that a lot of skydivers have been consulted, and when it came to the rigging and the R&D that went into both Felix Baumgartner's jump and Alan Eustace's jump. So it's cool to actually have some names that I know that I can attribute to different pieces of that design.
How does the suit get powered? Like, what kind of battery system do you take up there that keeps all this running?
Yeah. Sorry, I just dropped a thing. So I think a lot of that information is probably proprietary, and that's going to be me saying, like, I don't know the exact answer to that. So yeah, it's totally proprietary. But you're right that it is a battery system that needs to be able to power it. So that, battery technology has come a long way since Joe Kittinger's days, right? There's a lot more power that can be stored in batteries these days, and a lot smaller of a volume to sustain and longer durations of life support systems. And that is a huge concern, is how much power do you have to support an hours long journey on your ride up to space?
Yeah. How long is that ride?
Yeah, I think Alan's, I want to say, was around 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
So can you imagine just 4 hours like suspended in your spacesuit all alone under a balloon?
Just watching the Earth get smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It is a long
and then
time.
and so that for you guys from 139,000, that's like a little over 26 miles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
So how long is the free fall? At what tell us, like, describe to us the free fall. What are the stages of free fall? Is there anything happening at each stage? What are the where do you deploy? All that stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of the actual specifics, I'm not 100% certain on, but the free fall itself is going to be on the order of several minutes. And we would be deploying at an altitude that is, I'd say, higher than 3,500 feet, so higher than a normal sports skydiving. I think it'd be probably more like tandem altitudes, maybe even higher than that, somewhere between 5 to 15,000 feet, to support some time for the parachute to inflate. We'll be flying very large canopies, probably closer to tandem-sized canopies, to support the weight of all the equipment and the suit that we have on, as well as giving time to inflate and deal with any malfunctions that may come up along the way.
Swati, you're gonna have an AED, right? And does it need to be special in some way?
Yes, we will have AEDs, and there is a lot of intricate design concerns that go into rigging when it comes to a spacesuit. So a lot of the components need to be put in different places. So we talked about mobility of a suit. So just a standard reach back to grab a tuck tab like we do in skydiving isn't really going to work. So the handles need to be in different places. Cutaway systems need to be in different places. Accessibility to knobs that control my pressurizing and that sort of thing need to be accessible. And I can guarantee that the AED would need to be kind of engineered and incorporated into the suit a little bit differently than it is in sport parachutes.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder if you're gonna, ironically, you would almost maybe want to go back to older skydiving technology, like a ripcord system that was basically in the front, where you might think about a normal cutaway handle, and then maybe an SOS system that, if you guys don't remember SOS, just single operating system, where it cut away and deployed your reserve with one handle on the left side.
How is that different from a RSL?
Well, right now you release the parachute with your cutaway handle, and then if you have an RSL or a MARD of some kind, then it automatically deploys it. But that was before an RSL. They had an SOS system, which was you just had a left handle that you cut away and pulled the reserve in one motion. Obviously, there's potentially issues there, which is why we went away from it. But especially if you're thinking about like limited mobility in your shoulders, things kind of need to happen on the front.
Gotcha.
I would assume.
And then, can I take this time? I want to make a plug. There's a book out there. Let me see if I can show it. It's called The Wild Black Yonder by Jared Leedick. So this is a book. Jared is a guy who was an aerospace engineer, and he was the project lead for the suit development for Alan Eustace's jump. So he wrote this book, and it talks all about the R&D that went into the spacesuit design for Alan's jump, as well as the test process, all of the rigging and the skydiving concerns, how they did the whole run up to the jump. And it talks about a lot of these details. And I apologize that some of these are kind of fuzzy in my mind. I read this book a long time ago, so I remember a lot of the generals, but not necessarily all of the specifics. So I would highly, highly recommend reading this book. Super fascinating read as a skydiver, and it talks all about this.
The Wild Black Yonder.
Yeah, Wild Black Yonder.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Okay. I think that's all the questions that I had related to the things that you said. Chris, do you have more?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, next I wanted to talk about the record. Swati was on the record.
Which record?
Weren't you just on the head down record?
No.
You weren't?
No.
Oh, I saw you at Summerfest. I'm confusing events in my mind. Dang.
Summerfest is awesome.
Yeah, Summerfest was great. I thought you were on the record, so I thought we could talk about that a little bit. But I like, okay, sorry, I had one more. Artemis. So Artemis is a Greek goddess, is that right?
Yes.
And I would struggle to remember like what she was the goddess of, because there were so many things. But that's also an Andy Weir book. Do you know that? Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian and wrote Project Hail Mary, and he wrote Artemis as well.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, like, I don't think that the Greeks really had a lot of anticipation about going into space, and so so it seems like an odd thing for his book, but also for the project. And I'm wondering if they ever said, like, what's the significance of Artemis?
Well, Artemis, if I recall correctly, was, like you said, a Greek goddess, but she was the goddess of the moon. So the moon as a celestial being in space kind of represents this like near but still kind of far entity. And I think for early space exploration, that was just that first step into space exploration.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the. Well, I didn't know she was the goddess of the moon. She's the goddess of the hunt, but they use the moon. The moon is like a lot of times is a symbol for her. So maybe because the goddess of the hunt, maybe like, she's an adventurer. She goes out. She's finding new. I don't know. It kind of seems like it fits.
Yeah, maybe like the journey into space was considered a hunt for all this technology.
Yeah, I mean, a hunter or a huntress has to go out into the wild and explore new places.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
I'll buy
that.
Yeah. Okay, so barring that, like, I wanted to just correct something you said, Swati, because you would have been on the podcast at any time, totally independent of this project space. That was just sort of the icing on top, mostly related to over the years of being at skydiving events together, we've ended up talking about, I don't know, science and technology quite a bit, because it's something that I really enjoy discussing. And also I like hearing from people who know a lot more about it than I do, which is you. And so you would have been a good guest on the podcast at any time. I wanted to just, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, some of the accomplishments that you have had in skydiving. I mean, as you said, Eliana's pretty decorated, but you didn't talk about the things that I think that you've been a part of. And you were a part of Project 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like have you been part of Head Down Records in the past, or did you always stay away from those?
So yeah, I was a part of Project 19. So what year was that? 2019, when Project 19 kind of became a thing. 2018, 2019. It was really good timing. I was just kind of getting started working on my head down flying skills. So I participated in Project 19. It was a really well timed series of events that helped me gain my vertical flying skills on my head. I loved how accessible those camps were, and that they were set up all around the country. So, on the coattails of Project 19, I continued to chase vertical big waves and the sequential scene over the next few years. I racked up a handful of vertical state records, so the single point formations as well as sequential records. So I think I have records in the state of California, Texas, and Virginia. And I still love doing women's records in that sort of space. It's a really special environment with a great group of ladies. So yeah, absolutely part of the record scene in that capacity.
And then Chris, or for both of you, I guess, if you're not opposed, I want to take a pretty sharp course change. And Swati and I during Summerfest had just a kind of a maybe not brief, a few minutes conversation that I honestly didn't think that I would bring up today. Um, but it was kind of about the state of our country, and it had to do a little bit with Swati being a woman, the current administration, things that are going on in the country. And I guess the reason that it's on my mind right now is the assassination that happened, I believe, yesterday. Um, and just kind of wanted to get, I don't know, a take from you guys on that. I had honestly never heard of the guy before what happened yesterday. Uh, I'm not on social media, and I sometimes miss quite a bit that happens in the world. But one of the things that Swati and I talked about during Summerfest was just sort of dialogue and how people approach other people and feelings of safety in the country, and I mean that conversation ventured to the wildly different outlook that I think she and I have had over our lives. For me as a white male, and for her as a non-white female, um, and just hearing someone else's perspective on how she felt as far as safety in this country, and what was okay to say, and the shifting climate of our culture. And so I was, man, I think like a lot of people, I was pretty bummed to hear that that happened. Was it just yesterday, or was it
Mm-hmm.
2 days ago?
No, it was
Just
yesterday.
yesterday. And and at the same time heard news that I live in a little town in Colorado called Conifer, and I live there because it's very close to where my grandparents lived in Evergreen, Colorado. And there was a school shooting yesterday,
Oh man.
and I don't think there were fatalities. I think two students were shot um, in this tiny mountain community in Colorado.
Man.
And so just kind of wanted, I mean, those events are pretty big. I think the guy's name is Charlie Kirk. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. And he was a fairly, I think it's safe to say he was a conservative
Yeah.
Christian person who was uh, kind of found a niche in the world by having what I thought was civil discourse about a wide variety of topics. And I don't know if he was he the guy that kind of sat down and said, "Come change my mind," or
No.
something like that. That
No.
wasn't him.
No.
Okay, Chris, do you know more about this than I do?
I mean, maybe a little bit. I know. I'm familiar with him. I've known who he was for quite a while. But what you're saying is pretty much. I mean, that's right. You're right.
But he went to a lot of college campuses and just kind of talked about different ideas, and people were free to ask him questions. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw a couple videos of that sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. That was a very common thing that he would do. Just go set up a little tent and sit down, and he would always. I'm not always. I shouldn't say always because I haven't watched all of his videos, but I've watched quite a few of them. And he would have a microphone, and sometimes, most of the time, he would have the microphone out front, so then anybody could come up to the mic and make a comment or ask a question or whatever. And um, I mean, most of the videos that I've seen of him, he is being very civil. Now he also he didn't pull punches. Like he would speak his mind. He would say, if he disagreed with someone, and he had a different perspective or opinion, he would share that, and he would ask questions and give data or information that he thought was that he believed to be accurate and contradict what they were saying or thinking or whatever. So I can, but he was always nice about it. I wouldn't say he was a mean person, at least in the videos that I would see, but he also wasn't out there trying to coddle other people's opinions and perspectives. He was trying to share what he thought was the truth. I guess that would be how I would describe the videos that I've watched of him.
Yeah. I guess I don't know what the real question was, just that if I had one, just more wanted to bring up with you guys as just the idea of civil discourse, the level of safety that we exist in the country that Swati kind of talked about earlier this year. Is it safe to voice opinions and sort of what you guys, I don't know, I guess my teammates and I sat around today while we were waiting to jump and talked about like what idea could I say, what words could I say that would merit me being shot.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we could really say was, hey, I'm going to pull a gun out and shoot you. Like if I said those words, then maybe that's crossing the line. But
Yeah.
just bizarre to me, especially on a college campus, that talking about ideas where that should happen. That's what, if nothing else, that's what college campuses are for. And sort of, I don't know, just wanted to, I guess, bring it up and see what you guys thought. I mean, I hope that we can all agree that that was an unbelievable travesty. But I'm really curious, I guess, how other people react to that, and sort of how we've lost the ability, like maybe what came up today. Sorry that I'm rambling on, but with my teammates, the idea that in the past you didn't discuss with people that you were friends with, if you wanted to stay friends, money or politics or religion, and is that the right way to think about those things, and should we instead be trying to teach kids just how to have a civil conversation about differing ideas? um, I don't know, not a lot of questions, I guess, but just curious if there was some topic of conversation in there.
Yeah. Swati, do you have, I mean, please go ahead if you have thoughts that you want to share.
Yeah, I think violence in political discourse is pretty concerning. We've certainly seen a lot of that this year. Earlier this year in June, was it Minnesota legislators were shot and killed?
Really?
With the insurance thing, or what are you talking about?
Here, let me
Man, I
go to
missed that.
my friend Google to talk about this. In June 2025, a shooting targeted Minnesota legislators, resulting in the death of State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark Hortman, and the wounding of State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette Hoffman. So that happened earlier this year.
And what was that about? Yeah, I don't think I.
Yeah, political violence is certainly concerning.
Yeah. I looked up a quote that I've used it previously of it actually was originally attributed to Voltaire, although I think it was requoted during the American Revolution. Of I would potentially disagree with what you say, but then defend with my life your right to say it. And I wonder like how far we are from that exact sentiment, that this kind of thing can happen over just talking. It's a But I guess at the time that I was sitting with you, Swati, and you talked about just safety in our culture, again, it just highlights the massive difference that I generally feel in my life. Of I don't normally feel unsafe in any setting, and I hope that I can say this and not be a violation of that private conversation. But you expressed that has not been the way that you've moved about the world, and in fact there's many times that you don't feel safe in our society. And it just that struck struck me super hard, even though I don't know if I said it at the time, just to again highlight the differences in how human beings get through the world. And I don't know if that's, again, I don't, it's not really a question, but just something that ran through my mind as I was considering the events. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this: misogyny and racism are not new concepts in our society, um, and you maybe reflect on what a privilege it is to get to learn about them later in your life.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not new in any society. I mean, the that's humanity. Both those things have been around since we started, since we started hanging out with other people. Those things have been present. You made me think of JRuss when you're just talking about that, and the Charlie Kirk thing. Um, I think what bothers me, and I haven't heard anybody do this yet with Charlie Kirk, but like the idea of celebrating
Mm,
that would happen, and that's a little bit bothersome. That I can imagine maybe there are people out there that are happy,
mm,
or that are just even just okay with it. Like, yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, he kind of deserved it or whatever. Like that, just that I can imagine maybe there are some people in the United States that are okay with it and maybe even happy about it. I think that is really terrible. I was one time I was watching a documentary about, I think it was about Vietnam, and the person that I was watching with, doesn't matter, but it was showing different things, and they actually had some footage of actual like dogfight footage, like real footage, And so in the documentary, they show an American plane shoot down this other plane from one of our enemies, and the person I was watching with made some, when they shot, our guy shot down their plane, made some comment, like a positive, like, oh yeah, I got him, or something like that. And I was like, it really bothered me, because I was like, okay, maybe we were fighting for the right thing. I don't know. That's not the point. Is that, let's say we were fighting for exactly the right thing, but you just saw a video of a person getting killed. Like, I don't care that they're your enemy. You don't celebrate that. You don't celebrate death.
mm,
Even when it's the death of your enemy, you don't celebrate that. That's someone, they died. Let's say they were an evil person. Still, that's death. You don't celebrate that. You know, and that's I really hope that we're not. I hope there's no one that's celebrating. I'm trying to think of like, who is someone in the political world that I just really, really, really disagree with, that I just cannot stand. And if I heard tomorrow that they got shot, man, I hope I wouldn't be happy. I hope I would be just as sad. Like, I hope I would be like, no, that's not okay. I don't care that I didn't agree with anything they said, that I consider my enemy. Like, I can't be happy that my enemy gets killed. Can I?
yeah, I had an interesting chat with my nephew years ago because I was still on social media. It was when Osama bin Laden was killed, and he posted. I mean, he was only maybe, I don't know, 14 at the time, 15, and he posted something like, "Yay, Osama's dead," or something like that. And then I saw him in person, and I was like, "Man, McGuire, I don't know if you want to celebrate some. I mean, even he was made public enemy number one after 9/11, and I don't know, but that's a really interesting conversation about it. What, yeah, because I'm sure that you're right, Chris. People are out there
I mean,
happy
and
that
thankfully, I
got
haven't seen
killed.
anybody doing that. I haven't seen it. So I don't know.
My teammate said it is happening,
Is
sadly.
it, man?
Uh, yeah, and, yeah. So I I, I guess I didn't want to make it a super heavy part of it's. I mean, it's pretty heavy stuff, but
Mm.
I probably should have brought up in the beginning because really I wanted to. I mean, I wanted to talk mostly about the amazing things that Swati has done, um, and but I forgot to bring it up in the beginning. So sorry to overshadow your amazing experiences, Swati, and what you've got coming up. But I wanted to just chat about that briefly. Um, so, getting back to your project, sorry for the sidebar. Um, what is the timeline? Like, when are things happening? What and can we keep up with this on social media, or how can people follow your progress?
Mm-hmm. So the timeline, it's projected to be on 18-month to 2-year timeline from when we're able to kind of press the go button and get going on this project. So right now the team is in a phase of doing fundraising and getting all the ducks in the row with production companies. So reaching out to investors and getting enough funding to really get us, up and running and going. And there'll be a 2-year training process. There's a lot involved in that process. So we already talked about the spacesuit development. We talked a little bit about the platform engineering, that sort of thing, as well as training that we as the candidates will have to go through. So things that are training on the ground. So you talked about different types of training that's done in a pool, say wearing the spacesuit, zero-G training, hypoxia training, vacuum chamber testing, that sort of thing. Also be things like media training, given that this will generate a lot of publicity, how to manage your camera presence, that sort of thing. And then there's the what I think is like the super interesting part of getting to learn how to fly the spacesuit. We talked about wind tunnel training, just learning basic flight skills in the suit, learning to skydive in the suit, um, doing high altitude skydive training. So learning all the mechanics, the ins and outs of skydiving at progressively higher and higher altitudes. So there's a lot involved, as well as learning how to fly big parachutes and how to flare in your spacesuit. So a lot involved, but the projected timeline is about 18 months to 24 months as soon as we are able to press go.
And
And it, oops.
have they already decided where you'll like take off from?
Yeah, the most likely candidates are going to be in the desert in the southwest of the United States. So similar locations to where Felix Baumgartner and Alan Eustace did their jumps. So the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico type area.
And how far, like let's say you take off at this location, by the time you're at altitude, what do you know? Do you know the potential for just drift within that 4 or 5 hours? Seems like you could go a long way.
Yeah, the drift potential is huge. So you remember
Like
back to
hundreds of miles? Or
your spotting lessons and free fall drift calculations back when you were an AFF student. So yeah, all of those calculations are still relevant, and paying attention to winds aloft at all of those progressively higher and higher altitudes, and really making sure that the wind conditions are safe to do that skydive. In terms of the drift during your ascent, under the balloon, your free fall drift as you're coming back down, and the winds under your canopy.
yeah, it's crazy.
And Swati, how can people keep up with you?
Yeah. Yes, getting back to your question of how do you follow along on the progress of this mission. So the Hera Rising has a website. It's risingunited.org. It talks about the the Hera Rising mission. It talks about all three of us as the candidates, the different um, uh, aspects that are involved with the development and the ultimate success of the mission. So that is the number one place to go for information. Hera Rising and Rising United are also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc.
So risingunited.org, I put in the chat log for the podcast. And then Hera Rising is that like a Facebook or Instagram or?
I will look up their Instagram handle right now for you.
Yeah, I'm on the website right now. It's really cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool. Their Instagram is just Hera Rising. Is that what you said for the program?
Yep.
One word, two
Yep.
words?
No, one word. Hera
One word.
Rising. HeraRising.
Cool. So both of those are in the chat if anybody listens to this later and wants to take a look. And so, just based on what you said, the three of you are going to go through a parallel training process. Are you always three together when you're training?
That's the intent.
Yep. Is this, am I allowed to ask, like, are you compensated for your time, or is this all just volunteer?
At the start, it's volunteer, and then I think we're in talks to figure out what compensation would look like in the future. So,
Because I imagine it's a significant time commitment.
absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
That's so
And
cool.
yeah, super cool. God, I mean, the idea of going into space is
Oh, it
amazing.
sounds so fun. It
Yeah.
sounds so awesome.
Are you nervous?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've known me for a very long time, JRuss. I am always concerned about risks and my safety doing sports. So there's no shortage of things for me to think about in those terms when it comes to this mission.
What a short list of people, though, that would of people who've been into space. Like, amazing.
It's cool.
It'll be super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a cool experience it was to wear a spacesuit and put on the helmet for the first time and pressurize it up, and then just kind of get rigged up into a free fall position. You can almost just close your eyes and imagine yourself at the edge of space. What a view!
Wow.
Is the graphic on the website actually one of you, or is that just a mock-up?
I think there's a
I
lot
mean,
of
it looks female.
Yeah, there's a lot of mock-ups. There are some real pictures of us. If you scroll down, let's see. I think there's little pictures of the three of us that are, I think renderings of us stylized in our spacesuits. I'm trying to click around. So the one right at the top, I think that's a stylized rendering, so not actually one of us.
Oh, okay. So, yep, Eliana. Okay, rendering is a good way to say it.
Yeah. They were based on real images that we submitted, but definitely renderings.
And we should have said this way in the beginning. You should have said it, but you are a doctor. You're a PhD in material science.
Yes.
Are there so throughout your work career, are there any things that you've done in your work career over the past that were just really fun, or things that stand out that you were just happy to be a part of, things that have been especially interesting or anything like that?
I mean, yes, I feel like, my school and my career has just always been this pursuit of like, what cool stuff can I work on and do next? So, one thing that may be fun to talk about for my PhD research, since JRuss just brought it up, I was studying the design of flexible body armor based on fish scale biomechanics. So it was like all about bio-inspired design, looking at the architecture and the construction of fish scales, and seeing how we could leverage all those design principles to create a new product.
That's cool. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that reminds me of. I mean, it's fascinating the things that happen in nature that it takes us a long time to realize the genius of. And when I was looking at shoulder surgery, the advanced technology is using the design of snake teeth as the suture, basically, that a snake like a constrictor, when the thing that it's trying to kill moves, the teeth tighten into its flesh, and so I mean, once it gets you, there's really no way out. But the idea of bringing those torn tendons together using that technology is the cutting edge of I don't know, shoulder surgery, and
That's
just
cool.
amazing that snakes are pretty old creatures.
That's pretty cool.
Nature
that
is
tech has been around for a while.
Nature is so rad. You know, if you want another side quest of cool things to look into on the internet, look up snakeskin tribology. It's all about the mechanics of snakeskin, how the scales all interact with each other and contribute to locomotion in snakes.
That's cool.
What was the last word? Tribology?
Tribology.
Okay. Is it spelled like it sounds?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try it.
It's like the study
Cool.
of, like, I think it's the combination of friction, of interacting pieces, lubrication between the pieces, they're overlapping, constricting, and expanding to contribute to an overall motion.
Very cool.
So, cool. Well, Swati, normally we go for about an hour, and I think it's been an hour and 10 minutes, and so we don't have a time limit. But is there anything else you wanted to offer our listeners? They're mostly, to be honest, probably less than 500 jumps. The people who listen to the podcast, and is there anything skydiving related that you want to share with our new listeners?
Let's see. I mean, I think, if you're still listening, I'm super honored that you've held on this long to hear about not only my journey, my involvement in this project, and my answers to the questions that JRuss and Chris have thrown my way. Sorry. If I had to give some advice to those newer jumpers out in the world, it's to keep at it. I've certainly had a lot of challenges in skydiving. Nothing really came easily for me when it came to simple things like buying gear or learning how to fly. I felt like everything was really unnatural, and I had to put a lot of work into it. But I guarantee if you put the work into it and dedicate your time and effort, success will come your way too.
That seems a great place to stop.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, well, everybody, thanks. I can never give Chris a sign off. He did not waste an hour. This has been an amazing 72 minutes, and I appreciate you guys being here. And but I do like the Crave sign off of get out there and skydive with your friends, and hopefully you meet someone amazing like Swati, and have a great skydive and enjoy living in the moment, which I think is one of the things we all appreciate about skydiving. And Crave encourages you to do more and be better. So thanks again for listening to us this week. And yeah, it'll be, I don't know who I'm going to have follow up Swati, but maybe we'll have to take a week off just so the amazingness of this week can ride for a couple weeks.
Swati, thank you for joining us. That's really, really fun. And I'm excited to follow along and see how everything works out. It's so exciting. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's been an honor, truly. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Swati.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, JRuss.